I was heading back to school after spending the weekend with my parents. It was supposed to be an easy 6-hour drive from their home just outside Des Moines to Springfield, Illinois, where I had an apartment near campus. I ended up leaving later than planned, around 9:30 p.m., because my mom cooked dinner and then guilted me into staying for dessert. Just before I backed out of the driveway, my dad leaned into the window and said, half joking, "Don't stop at any of those creepy rest areas." I laughed it off and told him I'd be fine. I've thought about that moment more times than I can count. By the time I reached Peoria, I was already fighting sleep. I figured I'd pull over, nap for an hour or two, and finish the drive after. The rest area I found was poorly lit. Just a couple of floodlights and a small shelter with vending machines. There were 2 other vehicles there, spaced far apart, engines off. I parked near the shelter, locked my doors, and cracked the windows just an inch for airflow. It was one of those early spring nights that still held winter's chill, and the silence felt heavier than normal. I leaned back in my seat and threw my hoodie over my face to block out the light. My phone battery was at 13%, so I plugged it into the charger and left the screen off. Just before I fell asleep, I remember checking the time. 2:41 a.m. I woke up to a knocking sound. It wasn't loud or aggressive, just a slow, eerie tap, tap, tap on the driver's side window. I shot upright, the hoodie slipping into my lap. There was a man standing outside, tall, probably in his late 40s, clean-shaven. He was dressed in what looked like a navy jacket and black pants. Not exactly a police uniform, but close enough to make me second guess. He tapped again and motioned for me to roll down the window. In his other hand, he held up a badge. Something felt off about him. I couldn't place it at first. Maybe it was how calm he looked, like he already knew I'd roll the window down. I leaned in slightly. The badge was hanging upside down from a lanyard around his neck, and the shirt under it had the word police on it, but the letters were uneven and smudged, like someone drew them with a marker. The badge didn't even shine. It looked like it was made of plastic. He tapped once more, then said through the glass, "Ma'am, you can't sleep here. This area isn't safe." I didn't move. He smiled like he was trying to seem comforting. "You okay? Want to step out so we can talk?" Every instinct I had said no. That smile didn't match the situation. That voice didn't sound like a real officer doing his job. It sounded like someone pretending to sound official. I shook my head and mouthed, "I'm fine." He straightened, glanced around the lot, then leaned toward me again. "Look, I'm just trying to help. You're not in any trouble." I reached for the keys. I started the engine and turned on the headlights. That changed everything. His smile vanished. He stepped back. I threw the car into reverse and peeled out of the parking lot so quickly I nearly hit the curb. In the rearview mirror, I saw him still standing there, just watching. I didn't stop driving for a long time. My hands were trembling on the wheel. My mouth felt dry. I didn't even know exactly what I was running from. I just knew I needed space between us. When I finally pulled into a 24-hour diner closer to Springfield, I parked near the front door under the windows and stayed there until sunrise. I ordered a coffee I never drank and sat in a booth near the front, trying to calm myself down. At one point, I thought I saw someone walk past the window twice, but maybe it was just my nerves. I used the payphone by the restrooms to call the local sheriff's office and told them what happened. The deputy asked a few questions, then said, "We didn't have anyone patrolling that rest stop last night, and we don't use uniforms like that." I gave the best description I could. They said they'd send someone to take a look, but I never heard anything back. Maybe they found something, maybe not. I wasn't exactly eager to find out. That week, I started researching self-defense classes. I turned off my phone's location sharing settings. My roommate asked if something happened during the drive back. I told her there was traffic. That was easier than trying to explain the fear that followed me home, and that fear didn't go away easily. I started checking the locks 3 times over. Every sudden sound made me jump. Even quick grocery trips became stressful because I couldn't stop imagining someone walking up to me again. I couldn't shake the idea that I'd been targeted. Not by some random stranger, but someone who knew how to look just trustworthy enough. For days, I kept replaying it in my head. The fake badge, the marker-written shirt, the unsettling way he smiled like he knew exactly what he was doing and how close he got. I didn't tell my parents. They already worried about me driving at night, and I definitely never stopped at rest areas alone again. Even now, years later, I avoid driving at night alone unless there's no other choice. And if I do, I make sure I never fall asleep behind the wheel again. Because there's someone out there pretending to be the kind of person you're supposed to trust. Someone who comes up to your window in the middle of the night, knowing you're tired, alone, and too groggy to think straight. And I still wonder what would have happened if I'd rolled that window down just a little further. What really haunts me is how quiet it all was. No yelling, no struggle, just a soft knock and a fake smile. Sometimes I think the scariest part isn't that he found me. It's that he didn't seem in a hurry. Like he had all the time he needed. Like maybe I wasn't his first stop that night. And what's worse, maybe I wasn't his last. That thought is what makes me keep the doors locked, even in daylight. That's why I look twice at anyone in a uniform. And that's why I still keep a can of mace on my lap when I take long drives, just in case someone else decides to knock. I hadn't thought about that trip in a long time until last week when I saw a white van parked across from the cafe I was in. Same broken taillight. I didn't even wait to pay for my coffee. I just slipped out the back exit. Anyway, this is what happened. We were about 5 days into our road trip through the Southeast. Just 4 college guys trying to enjoy that strange little space between finals and internships. Me, Rob, Elijah, and Matt. The car was tight. Our snacks were down to gas station trail mix and warm Gatorade. The vibe was mostly chaotic with flashes of deep talks and terrible karaoke. It was the kind of road trip that felt like a memory while it was happening. The kind where you think you'll remember it all, from the sky's color to the dumbest jokes. We'd made a Discord server for friends to follow along. Random photos, voice memos, short updates. It was public because why not? Who would care? It was mostly classmates and a few strangers from road trip subreddits we'd shared it on. The server name was 4 Morons, 1 Car. That night we were leaving Savannah, heading west down back roads in Georgia. It was late, maybe close to midnight, and we were looking for a cheap motel near Mon. Elijah was half asleep in the back seat when he meant to send a location pin to his girlfriend. He was mumbling and fumbling with his phone and accidentally dropped our live location in the general chat instead of the private one. A few minutes later, we saw it appear. Live location shared. Rob groaned. "Dude, really in general?" "Crap, my bad," Elijah muttered, sitting up and deleting it. He took it down quickly. We laughed it off and moved on. It didn't seem like a big deal. Roughly 40 minutes later, we stopped at a 24-hour gas station to use the bathroom and change drivers. I remember the lights were those buzzing yellow ones that make everything look like a horror scene. The parking lot was mostly empty. That's when I got the first message. Cool hat, by the way. It came through on Discord. No profile picture. The username was just a series of numbers and a dash. I was wearing a silly trucker hat we'd bought at a Charleston gift shop. Only someone nearby would have noticed it. I showed it to Rob. "Think someone's messing with us?" he asked with a nervous laugh. "Maybe. Then came the second message. Hope you brought snacks. At that point, it stopped being funny. Elijah checked his phone. The location was already deleted from the chat. Whoever sent those messages had seen it before it vanished. We all scanned the parking lot. There was a white van 2 spots away from us, unmarked, engine idling, lights off. Matt whispered, "We need to leave, now." We didn't even grab anything, just jumped into the car and sped off. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror. The van didn't follow right away. To distract ourselves, we started talking. Not a great plan. The tension started to boil over. Elijah went quiet. Matt snapped at him for being careless. Rob tried cracking jokes, but no one laughed. We were starting to unravel. About an hour later, at a fast food drive-thru near Milledgeville, we saw the van again, parked across the street. We weren't completely sure until we left and saw it pull out a minute later. Same shape, same broken taillight. That's when the real panic hit. We turned off our lights and took a random left down a narrow back road in the woods. Elijah took out his phone and turned off Bluetooth, GPS, and everything else. We all followed his lead. Paranoia had us convinced our phones were tracking us. Matt mumbled, "I feel like I'm going to throw up." The road curved and narrowed. No lights, no homes, just thick trees and blackness. We drove in silence, listening for anything behind us. Eventually, Rob flipped on the high beams and we saw deer eyes glowing in the trees. It felt like a nightmare we couldn't wake up from. We passed a rusty fence, a dried-up creek, and a collapsed barn. Everything looked forgotten and eerie. At one point, we thought we saw someone walking along the edge of the woods, but when we looped back, there was no one there. Eventually, we found an empty church parking lot, killed the engine, and sat in the dark. No one said anything. We cracked the windows, listened, barely breathing. We waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20, still nothing. We began to think we'd lost whoever it was. We kept our phones off for a bit longer, but eventually curiosity got to us. One by one, we turned them back on. Signal was weak, but it came through. Messages started coming in from friends, from the server, from people asking why the stream stopped. Then one last message popped up, same anonymous account. "You're no fun." That was it. No follow-up, no threats, just that. We shut down the server immediately. Elijah deleted the app completely. We found a motel about 20 minutes away, paid in cash, and left no digital trail. We even parked the car behind the building. I kept waking up all night, couldn't relax. One creak or passing car and I'd sit straight up. I swear I saw the same van again the next morning, parked outside a diner across the street, but maybe it was just a look-alike. When I got home, I went all in on digital privacy. Deleted everything, changed my passwords, changed my number. I didn't talk about it for a long time. I'd lay awake wondering if we'd been followed the entire trip, if the van had always been there, just blending into the background. Sometimes I catch myself scanning rooftops for cameras, checking mirrors for cars that keep showing up. I don't post my location anymore. I don't even use ride shares. And I never let anyone tag me in photos without asking. Some nights, I still think about that last message. Not the words, but the way it felt. Like we ruined someone's fun. Like they'd been watching us and the game ended too soon. We never figured out who it was. Maybe just someone local who saw the post, or maybe someone who had been following us longer than we realized. I had just spent the last 7 days at a spiritual retreat in Talos. It was one of those silent, no-phone, soul reconnecting experiences. You'd wake up with the sunrise, sip ginger tea, and write more in a journal than anyone probably should. And truthfully, it worked. I felt lighter. I hadn't felt that way in years. So So when I packed up, said my farewells, and started the long drive back to Kansas, I was in a calm, centered mindset. The windows were cracked, gentle folk music played, and I wasn't in a rush. No pressure, no responsibilities, just the road ahead and my own thoughts. A little after 10 p.m., I was driving a deserted road just outside Salina. The kind of road that makes you feel like the world has vanished. Just blackness, wheat fields, and a two-lane road slicing through. My high beams lit up only a short stretch of pavement at a time. I wasn't tired, just lost in thought, reflecting on what I'd taken from the retreat. Ideas like mindfulness, staying present, and embracing stillness filled my mind. You know that feeling when everything suddenly feels deeply significant? That's exactly where I was. Then I saw her. She was just standing there on the shoulder. A girl, probably 10 or 11 years old. Long black hair, wearing a faded white dress with no coat, no bag, no shoes, nothing around her at all. No vehicle, no crashed bike, no sign of anything. Just her. Lit up in my headlights like someone had placed her there deliberately. I instinctively slowed down, my brain scrambling to understand what I was seeing. At first I thought it had to be a trick of light, maybe a scarecrow or some odd roadside memorial. But as I got closer, it became clear she was real and not moving. I stopped about 20 feet in front of her, rolled down the passenger window halfway, leaned over and called out, "Hey, sweetie, are you all right? Do you need help?" Nothing. She didn't move or speak, just stared. Not directly at me, more like through me. I kept the engine on, my hand close to my phone. My instincts were beginning to churn, but I didn't want to just leave. What if she was injured, lost, or running from danger? I tried again. "Are your parents around? Did your car break down?" Still no response. The silence was beginning to feel heavier with each passing second. Just as I reached for my phone to dial 911, I noticed movement behind her in the cornfield. A man emerged, tall and thin, dressed in what looked like coveralls or possibly a work coat. It was tough to tell clearly in the darkness. He held something in one hand. I couldn't identify it exactly, only that it was long and maybe heavy. A wrench, tire iron, or some kind of tool. He stayed silent and simply stared. Then he stepped forward once. I threw the car into drive and sped off so quickly that gravel sprayed up against the door. I didn't glance back. I didn't want to see if they were chasing me. I just drove. My breathing grew shallow, my entire body tensed, unsure whether to scream or cry. I think I had gone about 3 miles before I remembered to breathe again. I found a gas station off the next exit, pulled in, and sat with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The peace I'd felt earlier now seemed like a distant dream. The quiet calm of the retreat had been replaced by a deep sense of fear. I called the police
911, what's your emergency?
And gave them the exact location where I'd seen the girl. They told me they would send someone to investigate. About 40 minutes later, an officer returned my call. They hadn't found anything. No girl, no man, nothing at all. They were both gone, no footprints, only tire marks on the roadside. He asked if I might have imagined it, that maybe I'd nodded off or was just overtired. I wasn't. I knew exactly what I'd seen, as surely as I know my own name. I didn't say this to him, but I kept thinking about the look on the girl's face. It wasn't just blank, it was hollow, like nobody was really there, like she didn't even feel fear, just waiting. The officer thanked me for calling and ended the call. That was the end of it. I didn't sleep a single minute that night. I left every light on in the motel room and kept the TV playing. Every time a car passed by outside, I jumped. I checked that the door was locked 5 times before I even took off my shoes. The next morning, I thought about going back, helping them look, but the officer said there wasn't a search. No open investigation, no missing child report. As far as they were concerned, nothing had occurred. I drove home, but I still think about her. More often than I probably should. I wonder how long she'd been standing there, how many others had driven by without stopping, and about the man behind her, what he was doing in that field, what he held in his hand, and whether he was waiting for me or if I had just been unlucky. Sometimes I wonder if I was meant to stop, if it had been a trap, if she had been used as bait, a distraction, something to lower my guard. And other times I think about what might have happened if I had stepped out of the car, or worse, if I hadn't seen the man until it was too late. You know what affected me most? Nobody actually believes me. Not truly. Not my sister, not my coworkers. They just give me that look and nod. The kind of expression people wear when they think you've stretched the truth. I don't blame them. I might not believe it myself, but I know what I saw. And I know there's something out there on that highway near Salina. Something that doesn't leave signs behind, doesn't leave a trace. Something that waits in the shadows with a girl who never blinks. I stay far from that stretch of road now, like my safety depends on it. And honestly, maybe it does. I always take the longer route now. It adds 2 hours to the trip. But I don't care. Because what I saw that night wasn't just a girl in distress. It was something far more disturbing. I graduated from college in May of 2022. Like many people my age with no real responsibilities and too much caffeine, I figured a solo road trip sounded like a great plan. One final taste of freedom before full-time work became reality. I planned a route from Portland to Yellowstone, cutting across northern Idaho just for the experience. There were tourists, plenty of nature, and honestly, I liked the thought of taking a slightly less traveled road. That night, I was somewhere between Coeur d'Alene and Wallace. Long, empty stretches of two-lane road lay ahead. Not much traffic, only my Honda Civic humming along, a shuffled playlist playing, and an open bag of sunflower seeds helping me stay awake. My windows were down just enough to let in the cool night air, and the stillness had that peaceful but slightly eerie feel that remote roads get past midnight. I hadn't meant to stop, but my gas light came on. I passed one station that looked shut down and another that gave me a bad feeling. Eventually, a little before midnight, I spotted a lit-up sign in the distance. It read, "Pro Stop" in flickering red letters. The lot was cracked and completely empty. Picture wood panel walls, dusty window blinds, and outdated color schemes. Definitely had a late 80s vibe, but the lights were on and that was all I needed. I pulled in thinking I'd make it quick, fill the tank, grab a snack, then keep driving. The place was strangely silent. No background music, no radio chatter at the counter. Just one buzzing bulb above the register. The inside smelled of old coffee, engine oil, and that lingering scent of forgotten places. There were shelves of snacks that looked a little too dusty, and a half-lit cooler that quietly hummed with a few lonely sodas inside. The ceiling tiles were stained, and the linoleum floor was completely worn down. The man behind the counter looked around 60, thin, pale, with slick-back gray hair and a worn red Petro-Stop cap. He didn't say a word when I came in, just stared. Not aggressively, just in a way that felt overly focused, like he was slowly sizing me up. "Hey," I greeted. "Pump still working out front?" He gave a slow nod, then asked, "You headed somewhere?" "Yeah, just passing through, heading east." He blinked at me slowly. "By yourself?" That was the first time I noticed something shift. That odd moment when a question moves from casual small talk to something else, something more deliberate. His casual tone slipped just slightly. "Yep, just me," I answered, trying to keep it friendly. He gave me a strange smile. "Big world to be out and alone." I gave a nervous chuckle. "That's kind of the idea." He nodded again, leaning on the counter. "Do you call your parents often? Let them know where you're at?" That question landed differently. I tried to brush it off. "Yeah, I check in." "Good. It's smart to have someone know your location just in case, right?" I didn't reply. I just gave him a quick smile and turned toward the exit. "Thanks. I'll go get gas." "Check your tires," he said as I stepped outside. "Road gets rough ahead." I nodded, though I had no intention of doing that. I just wanted to fuel up and leave. But as I got to my car, he followed me outside. "Want me to take a quick look? I used to be a mechanic." I shook my head. "I'm good. Thanks, though." He stayed nearby, watching as I slid my card and started the pump. "Car looks clean. Oregon plates?" "Yeah, just moved from there." He nodded again, still lingering. "You staying nearby tonight? There's a motel down the road." "Haven't booked it yet." He smiled again, a little too long this time. "Smart. You don't want to sleep in your car. People disappear that way." I didn't say anything. I finished fueling, muttered a quick thanks, and got in my car. He stood there at the edge of the pump island, watching me leave. I saw his figure in the rearview mirror, still not moving. About 10 minutes later, I pulled into a roadside motel, one of those with a little office bell and an ancient ice machine. I didn't care. I was tired, uneasy, and needed a room with a locking door. The front desk clerk barely looked up, took my cash, and handed me a key with a huge plastic tag labeled Room 6. The lot was empty. It felt like I was the only guest there, which was both calming and a little creepy. I parked, went in, locked the door, and double-checked the window. Then I remembered the dash cam I had running, mostly for insurance, but it caught everything from my trip. I rewound the footage to the gas station stop, and there he was, clearly visible the entire time, walking out behind me, standing next to the car. Then about 10 seconds before I left, he turned to the side of the building. It looked like he was messing with something. Still, I told myself it was strange, but probably harmless. People get lonely out here. Maybe he was just odd. I tried to fall asleep. A little after 2 a.m., I woke to the soft sound of the door handle moving. Not violently, not shaking, just a slow, quiet jiggle like someone gently testing it, seeing if I forgot to lock it. I sat up, stayed completely still, and didn't make a sound. Then it stopped. I waited 5 full minutes before creeping to the window and peeking through the curtain. No one there. But my heart started racing when I remembered the dash cam. I had it running off a portable charger in the car. I moved to the second window, the one that faced the parking lot, and zoomed in with my phone to check the dashboard. The red recording light was still blinking. The next morning, I checked the footage. At around 2:14 a.m., the camera picked up movement on the driver's side. A figure. It was him. Same cap, same unsettling grin. He stood near the car for several seconds, then walked out of view toward the motel room door. You could see his faint reflection as he passed the hood. A minute later, he returned, stared straight into the camera, then walked away. I stepped outside. My tires looked fine. Nothing had been cut, no clear damage, but tucked beneath the windshield wiper was a slip of paper. Not a note, exactly. Just one sentence written in neat block letters. "You're lucky your lights were on." That was it. I went back inside and called the police. I showed them the video. They checked out the gas station, but it was locked, completely empty. One of the officers mentioned the place had recently changed owners and didn't keep consistent hours. No working phone line either. The man didn't match any ID they had on record. It was like he just vanished. I didn't finish the road trip. The next day I drove straight home, constantly watching my mirrors. And that note, I still have it. I keep it in my glove box, just in case I ever come across another pro stop or spot that same red hat again. You can support me by subscribing to my channel. It helps a lot and inspires me to keep creating more scary horror videos like this. Thank you, and see you on the next one. Stay spooky.